The massive screens in the Galactic Council chamber showed Earth rotating peacefully in space. The blue planet looked small and insignificant compared to the advanced worlds of other council members. Around the circular table, representatives from 20 different species watched with varying levels of interest. Marcus Reed stood straight, his black diplomatic uniform perfectly pressed. As Earth's first representative to make contact with the Council, he knew the importance of this moment. The past 6 months of secret meetings had led to this day, Earth's official discovery by the galactic community. High Commander Dax of the Vex species looked down at the human from his elevated seat. His gray skin gleamed under the chamber lights, and his 4 eyes blinked in an unsynchronized pattern that humans found unsettling. So, Dax's translator converted his clicks and whistles into English. "You claim your species is ready for galactic membership." His tone carried clear doubt. Reed nodded firmly. Earth has unified more in the past 50 years than in all its previous history. We have colonies on Mars, research stations on Europa, and primitive settlements. Dax interrupted. Your ships still use chemical rockets. You haven't even mastered gravity control. Several council members chittered in agreement. The human diplomat kept his cool. We may not have your level of technology, but humanity has other strengths. Our ability to adapt, to innovate. Every species says the same thing, said Dax. He pulled up more images on the screens. Earth's cities, factories, military bases. Your civilization still burns fossil fuels. Your weapons use gunpowder and explosives. Even your most advanced computers are basic compared to our smallest devices. Reed tried again. With respect, High Commander, judging humanity solely by our current technology level would be a mistake. Our history shows. Your history shows constant warfare, another council member added. This one was Ambassador Lin, her plant-like body swaying gently. You fight over resources, territory, even beliefs. Yes, Reed admitted. But those conflicts also drove us to improve, to solve problems in unique ways. Humanity's greatest achievements often came from our darkest moments. Dax's upper eyes narrowed. Are you suggesting your violent nature is an advantage? I'm suggesting that humanity's experience with adversity has made us resilient and resourceful. We don't give up easily. The chamber filled with murmurs and translated whispers. Reed could feel the dismissal in their reactions. These advanced beings, with their energy weapons and faster-than-light travel, saw humans as primitives playing with toys. Dax raised a hand for silence. The Council has reviewed Earth's application for protected status. We accept your world into the Galactic Registry. His tone hardened. However, you will remain under observation. Your species must prove it can behave properly in civilized space. Reed felt a chill at those words. The way Dax said properly carried a threat. And if someone decides we're not behaving properly, then corrective measures would be taken. Dax's translator made the words sound almost friendly. For your own good, of course. Later, in the privacy of his temporary quarters on the Council station, Reed sent an urgent message to Earth's United Defense Command. Request immediate increase in military readiness, he wrote. The Vex see us as primitive upstarts. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours, but their attitude is dangerous. They don't just look down on us. They want to make an example of humanity. He added his personal observations. The Vex don't understand us. They think superior technology means superior everything. They see our history of warfare as primitive, but they've never faced an enemy that adapts as quickly as humans do. If they try to correct us, they'll learn why picking a fight with humanity is a bad idea. Reed looked out his window at the stunning view of space. Somewhere out there, Earth's people were going about their daily lives, not knowing that alien eyes were watching them with contempt. He hoped the Vex would be smart enough to leave Earth alone. But deep down, he knew they wouldn't. The Vex would try to put humanity in its place. And when they did, they would learn what humans were really capable of. The first contact was complete. The countdown to conflict had begun. 3 months after first contact, The Vex made their move. Their warships appeared over the Mars colonies without warning. The attack was meant to be a simple show of force, a quick strike to teach humans their place in the galaxy. It became the Vex's biggest mistake. The first plasma bolts hit the main dome of New Armstrong Colony. The Vex expected panic, chaos, and quick surrender. Instead, they watched in surprise as protective metal shields slid over the domes within seconds. Their scans had missed these defenses. Humans had built them using simple materials that didn't register on advanced Vex sensors. Primitive fortifications, Commander Rax of the Vex fleet said, watching from his flagship. They cannot withstand our weapons for long. He ordered another volley. But inside New Armstrong, Colony Director Tom Walker was already executing emergency protocols designed for exactly this scenario. Looks like Reed's warning was right, he said to his staff. Activate the mining charges. The Vex ships, hovering confidently in Mars' thin atmosphere, suddenly found themselves in the middle of a dust storm. The humans had detonated carefully placed explosives in the nearby mining zones, filling the air with fine red dust. The particles weren't dangerous, but they completely confused the Vex's advanced targeting systems. How dare they use such crude tactics? Rax raged as his gunners reported they couldn't lock onto their targets. Launch the ground troops, and this quickly. The Vex soldiers, in their gleaming battle suits, landed outside the colony. They expected to find cowering humans. Instead, they met squads of defenders in simple but effective pressure suits, armed with what the Vex considered antique weapons. Railguns that fired metal slugs at incredible speeds. The Vex's energy shields, designed to stop plasma bolts and laser fire, had trouble with simple kinetic weapons. The first wave of soldiers fell back in shock as their shields flickered and failed under the impact of fast-moving chunks of metal. Back on Earth, the response was immediate. The old rivalries between nations vanished overnight. The United Earth Defense Council convened an emergency session, and for the first time in human history, every country voted the same way. Fight back. The Vex think we're primitive. General Alice Stone addressed the council. Good. Let them keep thinking that. While they laugh at our outdated technology, we'll show them why humans have survived every disaster in our history. Military bases worldwide began deploying weapons that had been developed in secret. Learning from Reed's reports about Vex technology, human engineers had already started working on counters. They weren't as advanced as Vex weapons, but they were surprisingly effective. The first human counterattack came just 2 days after the Mars strike. A fleet of small, supposedly primitive Earth ships approached the Vex fleet. Commander Rax actually laughed when he saw them. They send these tiny vessels against our mighty warships, he announced to his crew. Watch how quickly we destroy them. But the Earth ships didn't behave like the Vex expected. Instead of trying to fight directly, they released thousands of small metal objects. Space junk, basically. The Vex ignored this primitive attack until they realized their ships were taking damage. The simple metal pieces, moving at high speeds, were hitting their ships like bullets, overwhelming their shields which were calibrated for energy weapons. Impossible, Rax shouted as warning lights flashed across his bridge. They can't defeat us with such simple weapons. We are the Vex. We are superior. The human ships retreated, leaving the Vex fleet scrambling to repair their damaged hulls. It wasn't a major victory, but it sent a clear message. Humans wouldn't be easy targets. In his office on the council station, Marcus Reed received the battle reports with grim satisfaction. He sent a message to all Earth forces. The Vex made 3 mistakes. They thought technology alone makes a species superior. They thought we would break easily. And worst of all, they thought humans were predictable. Let's show them just how wrong they are. The real war was about to begin, and humanity was ready to teach the galaxy a lesson about underestimating primitive species. Inside the main Vex Military Analysis Center, Admiral Kex stared at the battle reports with all 4 eyes wide in disbelief. A month had passed since their first attack on Mars, and nothing was going according to plan. "Explain this to me again," he demanded, pointing at the holographic display showing the wreckage of 3 Vex warships. "How did they destroy our best ships with their primitive weapons?" The lead analyst, Tix, shifted uncomfortably. "The humans. They're not fighting the way they're supposed to, sir. They took apart one of our damaged ships that crashed on their moon. Within 2 weeks, they didn't just study it. They started building weapons to counter our technology." "That's impossible." Kex slammed his hand on the table. "Their technology level is centuries behind ours." "Yes, sir, but they're not trying to copy our technology exactly. They're adapting it. Look at this." The display showed a captured human weapon. It looked crude, a mix of Earth metals and salvaged Vex parts. But the results were undeniable. The humans had combined their simple railgun technology with Vex power cells, creating weapons that could punch through advanced shields like they were paper. Meanwhile, at the secret research facility deep under the Rocky Mountains on Earth, Dr. James Wilson led a team of scientists examining a captured Vex battle suit. The room buzzed with activity as researchers from every field worked together. "Look at this," Wilson said, pointing to the suit's power system. "They use quantum fields for everything. Weapons, shields, even their coffee makers probably. But that makes them vulnerable to good old-fashioned physical impacts. They never expected anyone to throw rocks at their ships." A young engineer named Lisa Park looked up from her workstation. "We just finished testing the new hybrid shields. They're not as advanced as Vex shields, but they stop both energy weapons and physical attacks. The Vex won't expect that." Across the room, military strategist Robert Turner studied combat footage. "Their battle tactics are too perfect, too by the book," he observed. "They fight like machines. No creativity, no adaptation. When we do something unexpected, they take too long to respond." In orbit around Earth, the first wave of new human defense satellites went active. They looked like junk, old communication satellites, and space debris. The Vex scans ignored them completely, but hidden inside each piece of space junk was a combination of Earth and Vex technology, ready to surprise the next attack fleet. Back in the Vex Analysis Center, another report came in. Admiral Kex read it and actually stepped back in shock. They took over one of our forward bases using projectile weapons and construction equipment." Tix played the battle recording. Human soldiers had used modified mining machines to tunnel under the Vex base's shields. Their primitive explosives had created a dust cloud that blocked Vex sensors. Then they'd rushed in using simple wheeled vehicles that didn't show up on Vex scanners, which were calibrated to detect only advanced energy signatures. "Sir," Tix said carefully, "I think we need to reconsider our assessment of human capabilities. They're not fighting with inferior technology. They're fighting with different technology. And they're learning our weaknesses faster than we can adapt." A message from the front lines interrupted them. 3 more Vex ships had been disabled by what appeared to be magnetically accelerated chunks of their own destroyed vessels. The humans were literally turning Vex wreckage into weapons. "How are they doing this?" Kex demanded. "Our intelligence said they were barely able to reach their own moon 50 years ago." "That's the problem, sir," Tix replied. "We judged them by their technology level. We should have looked at their rate of adaptation instead. No species we've ever encountered learns and adapts this quickly. They're not just using their own technology or copying ours. They're creating entirely new ways to fight." Kex looked out at the stars through the center's window. For the first time since the conflict began, he felt something he never expected to feel when fighting a primitive species: fear. The humans weren't just surviving. They were evolving their tactics and technology with every battle. And the Vex were starting to realize that maybe, just maybe, they had picked a fight with the wrong species. The surface of Titan, Saturn's largest moon, was quiet under its thick orange atmosphere. Beneath the methane clouds, a massive Vex fleet had established their main base of operations. They chose Titan for its harsh conditions, believing no primitive species would dare attack them here. They were wrong. Fleet Commander Jack Thompson stood on the bridge of the Earth-ship Defiance, looking at the tactical display. His vessel, like the other 50 ships in the human fleet, looked like it had been built from scraps. The hulls were a patchwork of Earth metals and salvaged Vex materials. The Vex called them garbage ships. They were about to learn why that was exactly what humans wanted them to think. "All ships report ready, sir," his tactical officer reported. "Operation Trojan is go." Thompson nodded. "Begin Phase 1. Let's show them why you should never underestimate humanity's capacity for clever thinking." The human fleet approached Titan openly, making no attempt to hide. Inside the Vex base, alarms sounded. Supreme Commander Vax of the Vex forces smiled at the sight. "Finally, they come to surrender. Look at those pathetic vessels. They don't even have proper energy shielding." But when the Vex ships moved to surround the human fleet, Thompson gave the order they'd been waiting for. "Release the presents." Each human ship suddenly split open like a flower. What the Vex had detected as structural damage in their scans was actually carefully designed breakaway panels. From within each ship came swarms of smaller craft, hundreds of them, built from the wreckage of previous battles. "What is this?" Vax demanded as his tactical display filled with new contacts. "Their ships are falling apart." The smaller craft dove toward Titan's surface, using the moon's thick atmosphere to disappear from Vex sensors. They carried what looked like mining equipment, simple drills and excavators. The Vex, focused on the larger ships above, didn't realize the true threat until it was too late. "Sir," a Vex sensor operator shouted, "the humans, they're not attacking us. They're attacking Titan itself." The human craft had drilled into Titan's icy surface, planting devices deep in the moon's liquid methane seas. They weren't weapons. They were heaters. Simple, crude, but devastating in Titan's delicate environmental balance. "They wouldn't dare," Vax whispered. "The temperature change could trigger a chain reaction in the methane seas." That's exactly what the humans had planned. As the heaters activated, huge methane bubbles began rising through Titan's crust. The Vex base, built on what they thought was stable ground, suddenly found itself on shifting terrain. "Now," Thompson ordered, "Phase 2. The larger human ships, which the Vex had surrounded, activated their own surprise. What looked like battle damage was actually carefully placed Vex salvage, creating a massive energy web. The Vex ships found themselves trapped, their own technology turned against them. Below, the first methane geysers erupted. The Vex base, with all its advanced technology, began breaking apart as the ground literally liquefied beneath it. Their sensors, calibrated for detecting energy weapons and advanced technology, were useless against a simple geological attack. "This is impossible," Vax shouted as his command center tilted. "They're destroying an entire moon just to defeat us." "Not destroying," Thompson transmitted on all frequencies. "Reshaping. We studied Titan's composition. Everything will settle in a few days. Your base, however, won't survive the reorganization." The Vex fleet, trapped in the energy web above, could only watch as their main base was torn apart by centuries-old geological principles the human scientists had understood long before they reached space. In the aftermath, as the Vex rushed to evacuate their forces from Titan, other alien species watched in stunned silence. The humans hadn't just won a battle, they had demonstrated a level of strategic thinking that shocked the galactic community. Marcus Reed, watching from the Council station, sent a simple message to Earth. "Titan secured. The Vex are running." And more importantly, the other Council species are starting to ask interesting questions about human ingenuity. The Battle of Titan marked a turning point. The Vex had lost more than a base. They had lost their aura of invincibility. And humanity had proven that sometimes the simplest solutions were the most effective. The galaxy would never underestimate primitive humans again. 2 weeks after the Battle of Titan, the Vex Supreme Council faced an uncomfortable truth. They were losing a war to a primitive species. The massive chamber, usually filled with confident discussions of expansion and dominance, now echoed with worried whispers. High Commander Dax, who had dismissed humans 6 months ago, now looked aged and tired. "Show them," he ordered. The central display lit up with images that made even the most experienced Vex commanders gasp. Humans had taken their simple space stations and turned them into what they called space docks, repair and conversion facilities that could transform captured Vex technology into hybrid weapons within days. "How are they learning our technology so quickly?" one council member demanded. A human voice answered from the shadows. It was Dr. Lisa Park, now speaking as Earth's representative at this emergency meeting. The Vex had requested this meeting, swallowing their pride to understand their enemy better. "We learned because we had to," she said simply. "Humans have always been good at one thing: survival. When something tries to kill us, we don't just defend ourselves. We learn, we adapt, and we come back stronger." The display showed more images. Earth ships that looked like they were held together with duct tape and hope, as humans said, but could outmaneuver the finest Vex vessels. Weapons that combined simple gunpowder with Vex energy cells, creating impossible hybrid technologies that no other species had even considered. "Yesterday," Lisa continued, "one of our engineers fixed a broken Vex quantum drive with parts from an old car engine. It shouldn't work, but it does. That's what humans do. We make things work." In deep space, a Vex patrol fleet discovered this truth the hard way. They detected what seemed to be a damaged human cargo ship drifting off Jupiter. When they moved in to capture it, they found it was a trap. The cargo containers were actually loaded with simple metal balls coated in salvaged Vex shield technology. When released, these balls created a web of quantum disruption that shut down the Vex ship's advanced systems. Back on Earth, in the underground facility that had become humanity's main research center, Dr. Wilson watched teams of scientists and engineers work on captured Vex technology. But they weren't trying to copy it. They were reinventing it. "Look at this," he said to General Stone, pointing to a new device. "The Vex use quantum fields for everything. We found out we can disrupt those fields with modified microwave emitters. Basically, big versions of what people use to heat their coffee." General Stone smiled. "So we're fighting their super advanced technology with kitchen appliances." "Exactly. They never thought to defend against simple radiation because it's too primitive. Their shields block lasers and plasma, but can't handle good old-fashioned microwaves." The next major battle proved this strategy. A Vex fleet approaching Mars found itself facing what looked like orbital junk: old satellites, broken ships, and space debris. But hidden in this junk were thousands of modified microwave emitters. The Vex ship's quantum systems crashed, leaving them drifting in space. In the Galactic Council chamber, other species watched these developments with growing interest. The Vex, once seen as unbeatable, were being defeated by a species that had achieved spaceflight less than a century ago. Innovation, Marcus Reed explained to the Council, isn't about having the most advanced technology. It's about using what you have in ways nobody expects. He showed them footage of the latest human victory. A small fleet of Earth ships had taken down a Vex dreadnought by using modified mining lasers, primitive technology that the Vex shields weren't designed to stop. The humans had basically defeated a space battleship with industrial tools. The message was clear. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology, it was their creativity. Every Vex victory had taught humans something new. Every defeat had sparked new innovations. As the footage ended, Reed smiled at the stunned council members. "You know what the funny thing is? If the Vex had just left us alone, we would have taken centuries to develop this technology. By trying to crush us, they forced us to evolve faster than anyone thought possible." The Innovation War, as it came to be known, was changing the galaxy's understanding of what made a species advanced. Sometimes, being primitive just meant thinking differently, and humans were proving that different could be deadly. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with more species than ever before. Representatives from all 27 spacefaring civilizations had gathered for this emergency session. Even species that usually sent robots to attend were there in person. Nobody wanted to miss what promised to be a historic moment. Marcus Reed stood at the center of the chamber, but this time he wasn't alone. Behind him stood General Stone and Dr. Wilson, representing Earth's military and scientific communities. On the opposite side, the Vex delegation looked notably smaller than usual. High Elderkin, the ancient leader of the plant-like verdant species, called the session to order. The massive living crystal that served as the council's central display came to life, showing images from the past 8 months of conflict. "We are here," Kin announced, "to address the illegal military action taken by the Vex against a developing species and the unexpected consequences of that action." The crystal showed the first Vex attack on Mars, then switched to recent footage. Damaged Vex ships fleeing from what looked like converted Earth cargo vessels, Vex ground forces retreating from battles against humans using modified construction equipment, and most impressively, the remains of the Vex base on Titan slowly sinking into the moon's reorganized surface. The Vex claimed they were bringing order to a primitive species, Reed began. "Let me show you what that primitive species was actually doing when they attacked." The display changed to show Earth's achievements: hospitals where any disease could be treated, farms that could feed millions, clean energy projects that were healing their planet's atmosphere, and schools where children learned about the stars they hoped to visit. "We weren't building weapons," Reed continued. "We were building a better world. Yes, we had conflicts in our past. Yes, we made mistakes. But we were learning from them. We were growing." The images shifted to show the aftermath of Vex attacks. But instead of destruction, they showed something else. Humans working together, former enemies becoming allies, scientists from different countries sharing discoveries. "The Vex didn't crush us," General Stone spoke up. "They united us. Every human on Earth realized we had to work together or die separately. Our response wasn't just military, it was cultural." Dr. Wilson stepped forward next. "When we captured the first piece of Vex technology, we didn't just try to copy it. We asked ourselves, how can we make this better? That's what humans do. We don't just use technology, we improve it." The crystal display showed examples. Vex quantum drives modified with Earth mechanical parts that made them more efficient, shield systems that combined Vex energy fields with simple Earth materials to block both energy and physical attacks, and communication systems that used old Earth radio waves to bypass Vex jamming technology. "The Vex attacked us because they thought we were primitive," Reed said. "But being less advanced technologically doesn't mean being less intelligent or less worthy. Different doesn't mean inferior." High Commander Dax of the Vex, looking much less confident than he had 8 months ago, stood to speak. "The Vex acknowledge errors in judgment. We fail to understand that technological advancement and civilization can follow different paths." The council chamber erupted in shocked whispers. The Vex had never admitted a mistake before. Elder Kin raised all 4 of her leaf-like appendages for silence. "The council has reached a decision. The Vex military action against Earth is condemned. It will pay reparations in the form of technological knowledge and resources." But then she turned to the human delegation. "However, humanity's response has proven something extraordinary. You didn't just survive. You showed the galaxy a new way of thinking about technology and progress." The crystal's final images showed human scientists working alongside other species, sharing their unique perspectives on problems that had puzzled the galaxy for centuries. "Therefore," Kin announced, "the Council extends an invitation to Earth. Full membership, effective immediately. Your species has earned its place among the stars not through raw advancement, but through innovation, adaptation, and most importantly, the wisdom to use power responsibly." Reed looked at his companions, then back at the council. Earth accepts, with one condition, that the Council adopts new protocols for contact with developing civilizations. Different doesn't mean primitive. Every species has something to teach us, if we're willing to learn. The council chamber filled with approving sounds from all species, even, surprisingly, from some members of the Vex delegation. The galaxy was changing, and humanity had helped shape that change, not through overwhelming force, but through creativity, adaptability, and an understanding that true advancement comes in many forms. 5 years after the Vex conflict, a small research vessel from the Krell species drifted to the edge of human space. The captain, eager to study this region, ignored the large warning buoys floating in space. Captain Zinn, his first officer, warned, "Those markers have the Council's official warning symbol." "Warnings?" Zinn scoffed, his scaled skin reflecting the bridge lights. "About humans. They barely had space travel a century ago. What could be so dangerous about?" A small Earth ship appeared beside them, seemingly out of nowhere. It looked simple, almost crude, but Zinn's sensors couldn't figure out how it had approached without detection. "Krell vessel," a friendly human voice called. "Welcome to Earth space. Please check your information packet. We're happy to have visitors, but we need everyone to follow safety protocols." The simple Earth ship disappeared as mysteriously as it had arrived. Zinn, now very interested in that information packet, opened it on the main screen. The document was titled, "Why There Are Warning Signs Around Human Space, a Practical Guide for Visitors." Meanwhile, on Earth, the changes of the past 5 years were everywhere. The skyline of New Beijing showed the mix of human innovation and alien technology that had become Earth's trademark. Simple-looking buildings held amazing tech inside, while advanced alien structures had been modified with practical human improvements. In the main research center, now above ground and open to the public, Dr. Lisa Park led a group of alien scientists through her lab. They stopped at what looked like an old Earth car engine connected to a Vex quantum drive. "This is where it started," she explained. "We learned that sometimes the best solution isn't the most advanced one. That old engine's mechanical principles actually made the quantum drive more stable. Now half the galaxy uses this hybrid design." Across the solar system, on the rebuilt surface of Titan, Marcus Reed stood with a group of new council representatives. The moon's methane seas had settled into new, stable patterns after the famous battle. What had once been a Vex military base was now the Titan Institute of Hybrid Technologies. The Titan battle changed everything, Reed told the visitors, "Not because we won, but because of how we won. We showed that innovation doesn't always mean making something more complicated. Sometimes it means finding a simpler way." General Stone, now Earth's defense advisor to the Council, sat in her office in Geneva, looking at reports from across the galaxy. The latest one made her smile. 3 different species had started innovation exchanges with Earth, sending their advanced tech experts to learn human-style problem-solving. Who would have thought, she mused to her alien assistant, that our greatest export would be creativity? In orbit above Earth, the space station Unity hosted the galaxy's first Technological Integration Festival. Beings from 30 species wandered through halls where the latest advanced alien technology was displayed alongside modified Earth devices. At one booth, a human engineer showed visitors how they had improved Vex shield technology using principles from old Earth weather satellites. At another, alien scientists eagerly studied human hacks that made complex galactic tech more reliable using simple mechanical principles. Even the Vex had changed. Their new ambassador to Earth, a young diplomat named Nex, had just finished a speech about learning from past mistakes. The Vex were now leading supporters of the Council's new First Contact protocols, which required detailed cultural and creative assessment before judging a species' advancement level. Back in the Krell ship at the edge of human space, Captain Zinn finished reading the information packet. His crew watched as his scales shifted color, a sign of deep respect in Krell culture. "Set course away from this sector," he ordered. And make sure every ship in the Krull fleet gets this packet. The warning signs aren't there to protect humans from us. They're there to protect us from making the same mistake the Vex made. He looked at the final page of the document, which read, "Welcome to human space. We're happy to meet new friends, eager to share what we've learned, and always excited to solve new problems in unexpected ways. But remember, we earned our place in the galaxy by being underestimated. Don't make that mistake. P.S. Yes, we really did stop a quantum-powered battleship with modified microwave ovens. No, we won't tell you how, unless you ask nicely and bring coffee." The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not by being the most advanced, but by being the most adaptable. The warning signs around human space weren't threats. They were reminders that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe isn't technology. It's creativity. The end.